It's halftime, America, and our second half's about to begin.
Good evening, ladies and DeGents. Welcome to the Week 8 recap video of the Distinguished DeGents podcast. I am your co-host, Steve Big Bucks Beta. Not really feeling like Big Bucks today. Here with me, as always, the lovely character, Money Mansman.
Good to be back, bro. Good to be back. What a day.
Today has been a day, to say the least.
Yeah, it's been a day.
This, without a doubt, we can break it off with the breaking news that we've been seeing all over the NFL world. Today was the trade deadline for the 2022 season, and this has to have been the craziest deadline moves I've seen in a very long time. So many marquee players being moved, so many draft picks just being thrown away out the window. I guess before we get into those, Money Management, what are your thoughts on today's Wild Wild West transactions?
There was a time not too long ago, and I think everyone would remember it, where the NFL trade deadline was nothing. Nobody traded away any draft picks. Nobody made any big trades. The trade deadline was sort of just another day that came and went. And, the trade deadline was big in like Major League Baseball, basketball, and football was just kind of whatever, big deal. Those days are over because wow. And some of our viewers will have already seen like our post on Twitter, some of the moves that have already been made. But yeah, today was a crazy day that I think is definitely going to change the outlook of the rest of the season.
Yeah, I was not ready to see these news articles this morning. God, it's funny. Like, you wonder, like, how you think about how, like, we're feeling and how excited we are. Imagine being, like, Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, literally busy at the phone all day, not anticipating this.
Yeah, because normally, like, you'd see the big trades during the NFL draft, and you never really had a big trade deadline. But some of the moves that are made and the players that have been moved, Roquan Smith, Bradley Chubb, Chase Claypool, TJ Hawkinson. I mean, it's not like the days of yore where it was, okay, third-string cornerback. Calvin Ridley, big name players getting moved. Christian McCaffrey like a week or two ago. Like, these are big names getting moved.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, I guess we'll start. I do want to start with the Roquan Smith trade. Baltimore got linebacker Roquan Smith from the Bears. Ravens got linebacker AJ Klein. Sorry, Chicago got AJ Klein from the Ravens. A 2023 second round and fifth round pick. And I think if you're the Bears, I think it was bad enough when they traded to the Eagles. I'm trying to remember.
Robert Quinn.
Oh, Robert Quinn. Yes, thank you. That was like already a big enough sign that they were moving on and that they were getting ready to do rebuild. I think this move just pretty much confirms that they're getting ready to do a rebuild. I think this is a sign that Justin Fields might not be the guy. And I think they're just recouping what they can so they can start the rebuild sooner rather than later.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, think of the difference when you look at like what the Jaguars are trying to do around Trevor Lawrence, what the Jets have tried to do around Zach Wilson. And then you look at the complete 180 where the Bears are literally just dumping everyone. Although they did get Chase Claypool from the Steelers, which I thought was an interesting sort of trade.
Yeah, I was not a fan of this trade. Chicago got Chase Claypool. Pittsburgh got a second round pick from them. I, on one hand, don't completely hate it because given the trade that we just previously discussed, it just seems like that they had an extra pick to get rid of at this point. Now, all of a sudden, I feel like they could have got someone better than Chase Claypool. I know Claypool was on the trading block, but you got to think, like, you have 2 second-round picks. You would think they would go after someone more high marquee, and I mean, even with Claypool, I know he's looked a little better this season. He doesn't, to me, number one, he doesn't seem like a second round pick kind of player. Number two, I think if you're the Bears and you're doing these moves for rebuild, what is Chase Claypool going to do to make a difference on your team? And albeit he is a better receiver than most of the receiving core, Darnell Mooney, you could debate, but I don't think the issue with the Bears is the wide receiving core. I think there's other issues they should have addressed and just completely ignored.
Yeah, the compensation was really high too. I mean, the compensation was for a guy who, let's be honest, was on the trading block, looked like his career was winding down in Pittsburgh, has been basically surpassed by Deontay Johnson and what's his name, Pickens,
George Pickens.
George Pickens, yeah. So surprised that a second round pick was the compensation, but good on the Steelers to get some draft capital for a guy that you were looking to get rid of. Good little trade for them.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's a good move on Claypool as well. I think he gets to go to a team where he could potentially become the number one guy. I just think if you're looking at this from a fantasy perspective, even a betting perspective, when you look at the stat lines and the over-under props, I think you're looking at severe unders from here on out, and I think those numbers are going to drop and make it harder. And again, like I said, I don't think the receiving core is the problem. It's hard to back any Bears receiver when your quarterback just doesn't throw.
Yeah.
And it's just basically another version of Kyler Murray, but scrambles all the time.
But, you know, there were some bettors out there who thought Bears plus 10.5 was a good pick last week. So,
you know what? We're going to talk about that later. And admittedly, wasn't my favorite. We'll talk about that later, but I'll just emphasize that was not my favorite pick. That was just more of a backdoor cover worry, and that 10.5 was a bit steep. And come to find out, it just they just
not
suck.
steep enough. Yeah, not steep enough.
Yeah, not steep enough. God, let's get the next big trade. The Detroit Lions, after firing their offensive coordinator earlier in the morning, trade their stud tight end TJ Hawkinson, a 2023 4th-round pick, and a 2024 conditional 4th-round pick, and only gets back a 2023 2nd-rounder and a 2024 3rd-round pick. I mean, number one, Minnesota, this is official. They're going for it this year.
Yeah.
All gas, no brakes. 6-1. You're leading the division. You're looking to put a stamp. This was the kind of move you needed to make, especially with Irv Smith now out 8 to 10 weeks. God, everybody was like on the Eagles as the best offense. I think they need to look out for Kirk Cousins. And I know the guy is mid as a motherfucker, but God, they just keep loading this guy up.
Well, yeah, you have Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook. God, remember a year ago they were talking about who was the receiver? Was it Justin Jefferson who was complaining about Kirk Cousins, trouble in paradise? Is this team over? Look at them now, 6-1. They win another game last week by 8 points.
Unbelievable. All they had to give up, all they gave up was a couple draft picks too. That's the shocking thing.
The shocking thing is, how many in-division trades do you see like this?
None.
Shocking.
Not like this.
In division, young tight end to Minnesota. I'll tell you what, not only is that trade curious, but you're wondering, I think some of the teams, now obviously not Chicago, they have a new coach, sort of new organization. But if I'm Dan Campbell, like they just traded away a young tight end, and I thought I was like a rebuilding team. I mean, is he the next one gone?
I think he has to be. I mean, the Lions right now, they're Cinderella darlings on TV, but when it comes to real life football, they're right now the worst team in the league. Like right now, they hold the number 1 draft pick, and for a team who I guess it was in the middle of a rebuild, but they seem to have a lot of promise. They haven't really shown up, and I just wonder, like, why Dan Campbell would make this move, unless there's something he knows that we don't. That's the only thing that would make me wonder, especially too to the Minnesota, your in-division rival. Is this like a disrespect thing? He doesn't think Minnesota's that good? Does he think TJ Hawkinson's not that good? I mean, Hawkinson had his injury issues, but other
Maybe
than that,
Minnesota was the only team that gave them what they wanted. I mean, a 2-3 isn't bad, but yeah.
it's well, considering it's across 2 years, that's my problem. If it was same year, I'd say okay, maybe I could see why. But when it's across 2 years, the way it is, I don't, and that's all you get for like arguably one of your marquee guys who's probably hanging up in the stadium. What would possess you to do that, especially after you fired your OC? Like, I would understand if, I mean, maybe it's a contract year for Hawkinson. I don't know, but that baffled the hell out of me. I think Minnesota fleeced the hell out of Detroit yet again. And I think Hawkinson, I think his value, to be quite honest with you, it could stay the same. It could go down. It's going to be a wait and see for me if I ever play any Hawkinson over under player props. But given that Irv Smith is out, and now this team, God, don't be shocked if Minnesota runs up on the value for the Super Bowl at this point.
Yeah. No, that was a big trade in division. Shocking.
Yeah, let's go to the next, I would say arguably the biggest trade today, next to Hawkinson. Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I was curious how you'd feel about this one.
I mean, I'll get into it, but I'll introduce. They traded star linebacker Bradley Chubb, former first-round pick, to the Miami Dolphins, along with a 2025 fifth-round pick, and they get a 2023 first-round pick that originally belonged to San Francisco, a 2024 fourth-rounder, and running back Chase Edmonds. Probably the biggest trade here, and my thoughts are this. If you are Hackett and you believe your job's on the chopping block, but you get a big win in London, I don't know if this guy really has the reins on the team at this point, because if you look at the way Bradley Chubb has played this year, big contract year, he was looking to get re-signed. This reminds me a lot of the Von Miller trade last year to the Rams, where Denver clearly wasn't going to go to the playoffs. They weren't going to go to the Super Bowl. Von Miller was in another contract year. So because it was Von Miller, they traded him to a winning organization where he had a real chance to go to the playoffs and maybe get another Super Bowl run. And Denver got a second and a fourth out of it, which I can't remember who we flipped it for. But we got essentially draft compensation out of it to make up for the loss. This just reminds me a lot of that, except the problem is Bradley Chubb was half the age as Von Miller. And I think for the fact that we did deal Von Miller last year was due in part because we were relying on the skills of Bradley Chubb. Now we've gotten rid of both. And now you got to wonder, is Denver's defense going to go down the shitter? And now, albeit they did make a trade with the Jets to get one of their linebackers to make up for it, but I just don't think it's going to be the same. My other problem, too, is that you go and was Chase Edmonds like a part of this deal, or was that like a compensation thing?
Was that like a throwaway? I want Chase Edmonds because I feel like it.
Right, and my question for that is, why is Denver muddying up the backfield even more than it already is? I mean, between Melvin Gordon's indecisions on whether he's going to start or not because the coach feels like it, Latavius Murray, who we literally signed off of waivers, and the guy has actually been producing just fine. You wonder, is Chase Edmonds going to come in, and what role is he going to fill that is going to be any different? Now, I do like that we got a first rounder out of it, because that was one of the big things with the Russell Wilson deal that everybody was being worried about. So I got to say good on George Patton to actually name his price and say, look, I need a first. Otherwise, I can't do this. At least now we can go into the draft next year, and if there's somebody we like around that spot, there's actually some potential that we could even replace Chubb with a rookie. But
I just want you to I said this to you before. That could have been Josh Allen. You could have had Josh Allen. But it's okay. You got Ross. He's cooking. So.
He's cooking up something.
He's dangerous. Dangerous.
Yeah, he's cooking up Subway sandwiches. That'll be his next job if he doesn't get his shit together.
Let's ride. No, my personal thought was it would be a good trade if you were going for a quarterback in the next draft. I mean, you would think a guy like Bradley Chubb would be somebody you'd want to keep on the defensive line if possible. Now, maybe they thought they weren't going to be able to re-sign him. He was going to test free agency, nothing you could do. My thing is, you have Russell Wilson for a limited period of time before he gets completely old and washed up. It seems like a rebuilding type move, but you have Russell Wilson a quarterback. Just a little bit odd.
Well, I've even mentioned this before. Denver, the front office especially, they have not been the best at making these types of decisions. And it's bad when losing Von Miller was the best one they did. And it was because it got Von Miller another Super Bowl and a $60 million contract with the Buffalo Bills. So, but you look at all these other moves, and it's even like the rants with Melvin Gordon, with all these other quarterbacks we've wasted time on. It just seems like we cannot pick a winner to save our lives. And now that we're stuck with Russell Wilson and we're committed, this was the kind of move where Patton said, okay. It feels like a gamble move. Like it's like, okay, do I want to gamble on Bradley Chubb returning? Is he going to go to free agency? Or do I get a first-round pick and at least somewhat save face? And I think that's what this move was. It was Patton trying to save face and get something out of, what he could. Denver, though, they did get kind of a replacement player. Defensive end Jacob Martin from the New York Jets. They also got a 2024 fifth-round pick. All they had to send the Jets was a 2024 fourth-rounder. Seemed a little bit odd. I didn't even know Jacob Martin was on the trading block. You're more of a Jets follower as a not a fellow, but you are from New York originally, so you would have more insight than I would. What are your thoughts with that move?
Kind of, this is the type of move you sort of expect at the trade deadline, sort of middling type player with the Jets, a kind of depth piece that, he wasn't really any of their big sort of defensive players, just a sort of depth type move that, like the Dean Marlowe trade with the Bills, where I think they traded for Dean Marlowe and gave up like a 6 or 7 round pick. Like this was generally what was done in the past. You would go the trade deadline, you get kind of a depth piece, not a big name, sort of someone you're expecting to kind of be a fill-in type guy who could give you some snaps. That's kind of the nicest thing you could say about Jacob Martin.
Yeah, and
he's not going to be a Bradley Chubb replacement.
Yeah, he's not going to be Bradley Chubb, but we had Malik Reed, number 59. We had him, and he was the fill-in for Von Miller when he was hurt, and he actually managed to step up and fill in real nicely. So I'm wondering if this is the kind of the same mentality. Can this guy just step in and fill the role as necessary? Speaking of players that just kind of fit in to take a couple snaps, Buffalo, your team, they traded for Nyheim Hines.
Oh, jeez.
They dropped Zach Moss off the roster and a conditional 2023 fifth-round pick. Given with Devin Singletary and the rest of that running back committee, which is oddly questionable, now you have Nyheim Hines in the mix. Is this a move where Hines is potentially going to be a starter? Is this going to be a split running back committee? What do you think is going to happen here?
So people think that he's going to be more of a third down type back that he was with Indianapolis. That's the expectation. Bills offense, if there's one position they haven't been able to figure out, it's running back. They drafted Singletary in the 3rd round. They drafted Morse in the 3rd round. They drafted Cook in the 2nd round. Now they're trading for Nyheim Hines. Gotta kind of wonder what the fuck Brandon Beane is doing with the running back.
Yeah.
Just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's kind of weird. Almost looks like what happened was this was a situation where they wanted Christian McCaffrey. They got outbid by the Niners. And it was like, oh, well, we kind of need somebody. Like, we were looking for a running back, and we need somebody. We'll see. I hope no. I've liked some of the things Nyheim Hines has done in Indianapolis. I hope that he could give the Bills an element that maybe they haven't had in a while. maybe he could go take some snaps from Singletary because look, Singletary, he had a good game against Green Bay, but then the week before he didn't really have a good game against the Chiefs, and it's just he's always a guy who is so inconsistent. So maybe Hines can give us a little boost out of the backfield, kind of like Matt Breida did last year at times to the Bills. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Last trade that I want to get into. None of the other ones really stood out to me, and I think we're just getting to the bottom of the barrel of the trades here in this deadline. But my favorite one that I wanted to go over, Jacksonville gets the suspended Calvin Ridley from Atlanta for 2 conditional picks. And I'm going to try to look up what those conditions are. But right now it is looking like a conditional 5th round pick in 2023 and a conditional 2nd round pick in 2024. Calvin Parlay Ridley is suspended for making a parlay bet on his own team to win when he was out. And now you got to wonder with Jacksonville, what the hell are they doing, considering they paid Christian Kirk, what was it, $84 million? And they had what seemed to be a decent receiving core as it was. Now you're going to throw Ridley in this mix. Was this a value pickup where Atlanta just said we're trying to get rid of him, and Jacksonville was just like, well, you kind of got some shit going on, but like,
yeah,
I'll draft you something, and if you like it, we'll do it. And it just happened to work.
Maybe they might have just taken a flyer on him and thought, well, he's a really good guy for our young quarterback, and if he does get reinstated next year, maybe he could be a boost. Could just be desperation. I haven't liked what I've seen from Trevor Lawrence the past few weeks. He didn't really stand out to me in a good way in that Denver game. So, yeah, this could be something, a sort of flyer type move. See if it works out. The guy, he's shown to be, he could play pretty well when he's not gambling on, his team. But,
not listening to our podcast and making bad decisions.
Seriously, though, if Calvin Ridley's listening, love you, man.
No, dude, you will be our hero for the rest of time.
Yeah.
Here are the conditions that were done. So that 2023 pick, I believe that 2023 pick was the 5th. That will turn into a 6th rounder if he remains banned from the NFL for next year. Will stay a 5th if he does get reinstated. Now, the 2024 2nd round pick can turn into a 4th rounder if Calvin Ridley makes the team. It's a 3rd rounder if he meets a playing time threshold. It will be a 2nd rounder if the Jaguars sign him to a long-term deal. So very contingent on whether they actually get to utilize Calvin Ridley or not, or whether he stays suspended. So I will say that really for the Jaguars, I think they're just banking on him not only being reinstated, but actually making an impact. And whether he does will be whether or not they decide they want to give up the pick. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't seem like they're giving up too much to do the deal. And again, I think this was a gamble type trade deadline move where very blockbuster in the sense of, okay, we can get Calvin Ridley. People probably forgotten how good this guy was.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if it works out. But that was what a trade deadline, man. What a trade deadline. Crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
back to back, just nonstop moves. It was without a doubt, like we said, the craziest one we've seen in a long time. And I think for tomorrow when we do the week 9 handicaps, I think we're gonna have to go over some of these games and wonder if anything changes or whether we're gonna stick to our guns.
Yeah. Oh, geez. So now I guess we have to get into the week 8 recap.
Yeah, I think we do. Okay, the Thursday night game, I surprisingly got this one right. I told you to take Baltimore, even though my analytics argument said to take the Buccaneers at home on Thursday night in a spot where Brady always tends to win, and lo and behold, he fucking choked again. That game, Baltimore, really, really rough first half start. Second half, they remembered that they were a running team and they ran the ball down their throats and they came away with the victory. So that was plus 1.5, 100 money line for the Ravens, who were a road favorite at first. And then we remember talking, the line flipped.
Yeah. See, that's why, I mean, one of the negative things of doing and obviously it makes sense for us to do the video beforehand, just because you have time to go listen to our thoughts on the game. But you really have to be careful, because that's the type of game where I go and my pick is on Tampa Bay early in the week, but like if I had to bet it and I didn't place money on it, like if I had to bet the game, I would have taken the Ravens, whatever. I think they ended up as like a 2 or 3 point underdog maybe. And
I think it was 2.
And I mean, it's like, what have the Bucs done to show that they're, and especially too, there was a report that came out. I think either you or I might have tweeted it before the game, where the Bucs were down like 9 starters, and
that was you.
Yeah, they were Buccaneers down. Favorite hours before kickoff with 9 starters down.
It was weird too, because Rashad Bateman went out. Mark Andrews went out after 10 snaps, which I know killed you for your fantasy team. R.I.P., bud.
Oh, we're not gonna. I just lost to the worst team in the league.
Gus Edwards was injured too. He had limited snaps. It was hard to. I could see maybe why the line got closer, but again, it was so weird to see the Ravens, who were a 1.5 point favorite, on the early look, and then all of a sudden it like literally flipped on its head with the Bucs injuries.
Yeah.
On top of the fact they were 5 in a row losing ATS, now 6 in a row, and God. You're just like,
what? Tampa especially. You watch Tampa and they just, I don't like. There are parts in that game you look at Tampa and they don't even look bad. It's just you look up and they've done nothing, and you're like,
you sound like a New York Jets fan when Todd Bowles was their head coach, and this was the one thing.
You're exactly right.
And this is what baffled me at the beginning of the year. I was like, they made Todd Bowles the head coach. I'm like, wait a minute, didn't this guy suck as a head coach? Like, wasn't he terrible? Like, isn't there a reason he's only a defensive coordinator? And then he becomes head coach. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I guess Brady wants him. Let's see what they got, because Tom Brady's the GOAT and he's infallible. The guy wins Super Bowls like it's nothing. And the next thing you know, it's like, wow, the Bucs are really terrible under this coach. Wow, maybe Bruce Arians really was the better guy.
And maybe Bruce Arians should get a little bit of credit, because everybody's, oh yeah, well it was Tom Brady and Bruce Arians sucks, and this team is just sort of like. Just pigeon. It's like pigeon crap. I mean, you just watch them and they don't do anything well, and you just look up and they've lost again. I mean, that Thursday night game was just kind of, you look up and it's like, oh, I guess the Ravens won. It was just.
Really look, Mike Evans dropped another pass. Oh, look, Leonard Fournette got 3 yards. Like, I swear to God, it's like they are just a shell of their former selves with Todd Bowles at the head coach. And I give credit to Bruce Arians. I think he was a bigger piece than people realized. And I think a lot of people, especially in the sports commentating world, were on that nugget too. They were like, wait a minute, Bruce Arians is the guy. Brady went there to have a great head coach with a different environment. And now he's getting rid of him, and this is going to work. There's just no way. And can't wait to fade them again. They're on auto fade. They've been on auto fade for this will be the 3rd week in a row. They're on auto fade.
Yeah, and they're against another disappointing team that I'm sure we'll get to later.
For sure. Next game, the London game, Denver and Jacksonville. Your London Jaguars. This, and I'm glad you made the clip, by the way, because I'm gonna hammer this. You think I'm kidding, but every week the Broncos play until further notice, I'm hammering the under. And I bet this one. I bet a whole unit. It cashed. Now, I will admit, it got really scary at the end, which I want to say it was Jacksonville with the last-minute drive. it was what, a 32 or some shit. I can't even remember. 21-17, something like that.
No,
Like
what happened was, remember, it was 21-17. Jacksonville has the ball. Trevor Lawrence throws an instant interception because he can't win football.
That's right.
And
It was
then the Denver, they have it 4th and 1 with 40 seconds left, and they could have kicked the field goal, which would have beaten you, but they
and that would have killed it.
Yeah. But they go for it, they get it. Everybody goes home. Wow, you go home happy. I go home sad because I bet the Jaguars.
Yeah, that was a rough beat by you, because even I was on your side with the Jaguars. I was like, why are we gonna even think about putting money on Denver in this situation?
Them, and you're gonna hear this with the Lions as well. They just don't win. They just do enough every game to lose. You look at the Jaguars; they come out strong. Denver can't do anything. And they just do enough to lose. They give up a timely long bomb to KJ Hamler. I think it was KJ Hamler. They just do enough to lose a football game every time.
It wasn't even like Russell Wilson was that impressive. He looked like, he literally first drive throws an interception. And it was like, oh, great. Here we go again. Russell Wilson cooking up shit. And then it was like the second half. And it was just a real managed offense where Russell Wilson wasn't doing anything too crazy. They had enough time to get the throws down. He wasn't looking at Sutton for every play. And if that team comes out more often than they have lately, that could be the difference between them winning these close games, who I mentioned in the handicap, where they've lost by a grand total of 13 points.
Yeah.
23 in losses. The last 3 they lost, it was a grand total of 13. That's the kind of game managing the Broncos will need after the bye if they want to win close matchups like this. They may not win every game.
Well, especially it's a good point, especially against bad teams, because Jacksonville should have won the game. They throw an interception in the end zone, and then Trevor Lawrence takes a ridiculous intentional grounding penalty to knock him out of field goal range. And that's the difference. Denver doesn't make the key mistake the Jaguars do. Now, I don't know if that's going to work against the Chiefs, the Chargers, some of the better teams in the AFC.
I don't think the Chargers are that good. You look at that Chargers game, and 1 or 2 mistakes that Russell Wilson doesn't make, that could be the difference between them getting a field goal or 2 or even a touchdown and winning the game outright.
Well, I think that's a good point. I mean, how many of these games, these close games, it's 1 or 2 mistakes that...
And to hammer the point down, this just happened to be the game the mistake went on the other end of the field, but that's not going to happen every time. And that's why I say, like, Denver coming back the way they did, I think was a good key moment to realize that, like, if that's even if that's how they played, that could be the difference. And we'll see after. I know they're on the bye this week, but we'll see after that whether they get their shit together or not, especially now that Bradley Chubb is gone. Chicago went to Dallas as 9.5-point road dogs. I picked the Cowboys to win. I had Chicago covering, and lo and behold, the real Justin Fields, please stand up, because you're on your ass again, because Micah Parsons just sacked your ass, and they lost by a grand total of 20. Dak Prescott, I think, just, like I kind of mentioned too, maybe I missed this, but he had the best 2 starts a quarterback could get coming off of injury against 2 of the lowliest teams in the league. And I don't know whether I'm going to fade Dak Prescott again after this, but I do wonder, is this really indicative of the Cowboys team, or is Chicago really that bad?
Both. This is what Dallas does. They beat teams like this badly. That's who they are. They go, they have a good defense. They just sort of bully teams like this. Bad teams, they bully. We'll see how they do against the Eagles. We'll see how they do against better teams. But yeah, Dallas does this all the time. They play these tomato cans and just beat them up. And that was my handicap for this game. And this was one of the few
Yeah.
handicaps last week where it literally just they just bullied the team. It wasn't
Ball through the hoop for money management. As for me, I took the Bears on the 9.5, thinking even at worst it could be a backdoor cover. Because you watched that Lions game that the Cowboys had, and you were thinking like, God, the Cowboys should be doing more. Like this should be a more explosive game, and it just wasn't. So then I get the Bears who were coming off like mightily high, and I was like, Cowboys aren't going to lose this, but like, is this going to be another bullshit game where they come in and it's real close down to the wire just until it isn't? You know what? Like, or was it going to be a blowout, but then they take their foot off the pedal and Justin Fields does his thing? Like, that was my concern with that game. And I think I should have just, I should have just played the money line. That I was stronger on that feeling anyways. I know it was so chalky, but the way I round robin, it was just like I might as well have. Like, and maybe that's not a good gambling take, but the take I have is that I felt strongly about the Cowboys, and I made the mistake. It was a rookie move. I went with the Bears. And I think the move I should have made was to just tease the Dallas line if I felt that worried about it.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on that game?
No, we could move on.
Well, I'll tell you who didn't move on, the Vegas Raiders, because I know New Orleans showed up at home.
Dunko, pick of the week. Dunko, pick of the week.
Yeah, this was New Orleans showed up. This was my other over-under pick. I really didn't have a strong feeling one way or the other, but I played the over on this one thinking like both teams would show up. New Orleans came in, they dropped 24, about average, about what you would expect. Raiders just nowhere to be found.
Done with this Raiders team. You are what your record says you are. I've been saying for 3 weeks. We've said it before. Best 1-4 team in the league. Had a tough schedule to begin with. They're a lot better than their record says they are. 0 wins on the road. 0. Done with the Raiders. Seriously. Enough's enough. They're a road favorite again this week. I'm gonna rant about that. I'm gonna rant about that tomorrow. Done with this team. No more. Enough. Seriously. 24-0 against one of the worst defenses in the league. Done with the Raiders. Dunzo. Enough's enough.
I will say the fun nugget I had earlier was who was it? Andy Dalton, 3-0, now 4-0 against the Raiders. But
was he playing defense? Was he the one that was sacking Carr? Thank you.
No, he was not. I will say, and I'm trying to find our friend who we had a Twitter exchange with earlier, but it is the Jets. Or sorry, it is the Jaguars that the Raiders play next week. So
okay, you want to put money on that game? You want to be a donkey? Go for it. Whoever wants to put money on that game. You want to be an idiot? You want to go? You want to roll the dice with that team? You want to bet the Raiders as a road favorite again, even though they've not won one game on the road this year? Have at it. Hope you win.
Shout out to the Makeshift Managers podcast, who we had that conversation with earlier. It is the Jags. He's 100% right. They're 100%
and especially too fantasy wise as well. Like if you have Devontae Adams like I do,
oh
good Lord! I mean, Derek Carr is just like an axe murderer. I mean, this guy is terrible. Jesus. But yeah, I'm gonna have a big rant. This a tease. There's going to be a big rant tomorrow about the Raiders because tonight's going to be my Bills rant. Tomorrow will be a Raiders rant just because done with that team.
Well, the good news is I didn't have a Broncos rant. I have a personal beef with you for this next game, and I think you've known this was incoming.
What a crazy game.
Yeah, we'll start with the positives, and I'll be fair. Carolina went to Atlanta. They were 4-point road dogs. You had a lot of feelings towards me saying not only this was my worst handicap, I was being emotional.
Yeah.
I was God, Donko pick of the year. You were threatening for me to wear a paper bag for the next Atlanta game. Now, before I get into you, I'm going to be fair. I had this as my dog of the week, which I've mentioned before. This is a money line play for me. And you did save me from a money line loss. I did take the Panthers on the spread against your judgment, removing them as my dog of the week. And also, in fairness, the more I thought about it after the show, the arguments I feel like I portrayed were more of a reason to fade Atlanta and not necessarily in a good supportive role for the Panthers. But, dude, for something that we thought would be the garbage game of the week, turned out to be the game to watch. Back and forth. And now here's my problem. This handicap I had where I said Atlanta is not as good of a team. You apply this logic with the Raiders. Your record is who you say you are. And Atlanta's record is not that good.
I mean, they're first place in the NFC South now.
They got away with one of the biggest games ever, probably this season for them. Carolina literally, by the way, my favorite line too, and I'm going to make a clip of this later, where you said PJ Walker can't heave the ball whatsoever. And the next thing you know, he heaves the ball. Hail Mary.
Is that really what I said? Oh, I'm going to have
yes,
to eat
it
that.
is.
I'm going to have to eat that word.
You literally, PJ Walker can't even heave it. Throws a Hail Mary on your ass with 18 seconds to go.
I mean, think about it this way. And I'll admit, talk about a wrong handicap. Like, I thought Carolina was coming off their Super Bowl. They had their big win. It was time for them to lay down and die. And they basically, step for step, are in that whole game. And literally it ends. And I will say this. I ended up betting Atlanta money line because, again, later in the week you go, things change. Atlanta had some injuries. Like, you go.
This was your best bet of the week. This was your best bet. And you had the audacity to say, I change it to the money line.
Bro, I won money this week.
No balls.
Yeah. Okay, how'd you do this week? Big bucks? Yeah, no money for you. I won money this week. That's why they call me money.
I won some money. I didn't profit. I won some of it.
Okay, so the casino made money for you. I made a little bit.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Look, I was happy for you in the sense that, like, at the end of the day, I ended up betting Atlanta money line. You ended up betting Carolina spread. It was cool that, like, we were both able to hit those picks. But, bro, let's be honest. I was 18 seconds away from covering.
If DJ Moore doesn't take his helmet off, it's a normal extra point. Now, I'm not saying that kicker makes it. I guarantee you he's cut after this week. If he's not, I'm going to be very surprised.
God, wasn't that like, you're 100%. It was literally, if Atlanta doesn't let him heave, they cover. If Carolina's idiot kicker makes like a 15-yard field goal, they win. It was it
was a 45-yard extra point. 45 yards. You're an NFL kicker. That is standard. And you shank it.
Bro, the kick in overtime was worse. He 37 yards away, overtime. No good.
That was disgusting. That was literally the betting gods looking down on me and you and being like, I feel like what happened was the betting gods looked down and they said, big bucks, that probably was your worst handicap. But Mansman was such a twat about it that I have to make them sweat this in the worst way possible. Now, admittedly, and again, you saved me from the money line pick because I would have taken the Panthers on the money line. And God, how close was that?
Bro, that would have been like one of the worst. That would have been you having like 3 of the worst beats of the year. And I thought I was going to take, because I had the Falcons money line and he scores the touchdown. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm about to lose this bet, lose money for the week because this effing team gives up a Hail Mary touchdown with 5 seconds left. Typical Atlanta blowing leads late. And then somehow, miraculously, I'll tell you, I had some pretty good luck this past week to make some money.
God, Here's my next bone. It'll be the next game because you gave me just as much shit. Probably not as bad, but you definitely in the amount. God, I'll end it with this. Carolina, new coach, new quarterback. Somehow they seem to be playing like an actual NFL team this time. Whether that continues, I think will be remaining to be seen. I don't know how long they could keep this up. I think they did have two really bad NFC South teams. Now they're actually going to play an AFC team next week. Haven't exactly handicapped that fully yet. The line is a bit steep for me, but we can get into that next week. Here's the next game you also gave me shit about. Miami going to Detroit. 3.5-point favorites.
Oh, come on.
Detroit.
Are you kidding me?
Detroit is a different team at home.
Okay.
Their record is what their record is.
Okay. First off, what was the spread and what did the game end at?
Ended at 4, and that's all that matters.
The
spread was at 3.5.
You're gonna wait a minute. I make a sharp pick. Now hold on. I will say Atlanta completely deserved. I gave you a ton of shit. Totally deserved for me being a twat. Deserve everything I got for that. Detroit. Worst team in football. 3.5-point underdogs. I make a case for Detroit. The game ends 4 after they blow a lead after winning like 27-10 at one point. Okay. You're going to give me shit like, wow, what an idiot.
No, I'm not going to actually. No.
4 fucking points, bro. Worst team in football.
I'm just saying, I made a case for Miami, and you made it sound like I was being so emotional and that I was just fading these teams because they cost me money the week before. And now, admittedly, the Carolina pick was more of a gut pick, like I mentioned. And this pick was like, actually, you know what? Why am I betting on the worst team in football? Miami, they have their quarterback back. Tua's there. And admittedly, you're right. It got scary. It was 27-10 at one point, and they still came back and won. Like, how bad is, like, God, is Detroit actually the worst team, or are they not the worst team?
Their defense is so
bad. I mean, they had Tyreek Hill, like, and Jalen Waddle. And you thought my argument too was like, you thought 3.5 was enough. And I looked, I was like, that's not high enough.
The game ended 4.
And it ended in 4. So I mean, literally 4.5 would have been the difference, but I looked at the 3.5 and I was like,
as I've told everybody this year, use your teasers, use your alternate spreads. Tease Detroit with, who did I tease Detroit with? Arizona, and won both games. That's what I've told you. And I will say, I've said it on the podcast. I've said it this year especially. This year especially with all the close games. Use your teasers. Use your alternate spreads. And again, that's the difference between winning and losing a lot of these games. And this week, here's the thing. And maybe this is a point for later. But the key was, you handicapped much better than me last week, and I won money just because I think I was smarter with the bets than you.
You played teasers, I didn't. We'll start with that. Whereas if I think I had played teasers, maybe it would be different. I say maybe.
Well, maybe. Especially this year, just because the teams have been lower scoring. There's been a lot of close games. If you're smart about the teams you're picking, you could really get, like, the advantage teaser has been a big advantage this year where the games have been so close.
Very, very true. And again, Detroit's last home win in October, 10-27-2019. We are now in the month of November.
Still,
we'll see if anything changes.
Yeah. But that was tough, 3.5. Like, they lose by 4, And that's indicative of my year where, why do you think I'm playing more teasers? Because literally that's what happens. Like, that's what's happened to me all year. I'll bet Jacksonville to win. They give up a touchdown late and I lose. I play it, if I had played Atlanta on the spread, I'm like, 18 seconds away from winning, and then I would have lost. I mean, it's just, you ask, well, why are you playing all these teasers? What the hell is wrong with you? It's literally because I've taken some beats this year that have been the worst beats in the history of the world.
Yeah. Well, speaking of bad beatings, Philadelphia just laid the pipe down and just completely fucked up a boy in Kenny Pickett and wasn't even close, wasn't even a debate. Again, a bad handicap on ATS. I had Pittsburgh keeping this close, mainly because, again, of Philly and unknowing what they were going to do on defense as far as the second half went. God, I mean, what else can you say? You throw a screen pass to Najee Harris for like the 9th time in a row, and Najee just stays at the goal line, and he just stays at the line and says, "Fuck it, I'm not moving." I mean, what more can
did
that
nothing
offense
to say? The Eagles are really good. They have another cupcake on Thursday Night Football.
Oh my God, yeah.
Pittsburgh's terrible. They're just bad.
Are they on auto fade? Are they on auto fade from now on?
Hard to really, I mean, especially with their schedule, it's hard to really, I mean, what teams do you give them a legitimate chance to beat? Jacksonville, Indianapolis, maybe, in the AFC. I mean, other than that, there's not a whole lot of teams.
I mean, they can't even beat Cleveland. Like, you can't even beat Cleveland. Yeah, you can't even...
It's hard to really think of a team Pittsburgh's going to be competitive.
You barely beat the Bucs, who arguably are worse right now. At least they're playing worse. God.
This is about Kenny Pickett, last point. This is about Kenny Pickett taking his lumps, sort of figuring out how to be an NFL quarterback. Like, that's what the rest of this year is about. Take your lumps, kid, figure out how to be a quarterback.
I will say, a lot of people have had they've had differentiating thoughts on Kenny Pickett at the press conference. I don't know if you saw it. He essentially nonchalantly called out Matt Canada and just said, we can't run the same play over and over again and expect different results.
Oh, Jesus.
Like, something has to change. And I personally like that. I'm glad somebody finally kind of said it, but now that it's coming from your starting rookie quarterback, it's hard for me to be high on Pittsburgh from here on out until that offensive scheme just changes.
Their defense is bad. Their offense is bad. They're just not good at football right
now. Not lately, dude. Not lately. Not bad at football. Speaking of Arizona, they went to Minnesota as 3.5-point road dogs. Your default quote unquote dog of the week. Another no-show for Kyler Murray.
Bro, this is why, it's. I'll take all the abuse. People could send me hate messages if they want. Arizona's the reason why you use the 6-point teaser. You go, you look, Arizona's winning, and they just never hold on to a lead. They never finish out a game. Just brutal.
Yeah, my thinking on this
was
one
so bad last week. Go ahead.
I didn't actually hate you for this dog of the week. I actually said like this was a spot where Arizona could do it. A lot of other sharps I saw also picked Arizona to win this game. I didn't think they had any chance at winning. I just wondered, was this going to be another close Minnesota home game, last second field goal type? And 3.5, whereas unlike the Miami and Detroit game, where I actually liked Miami to win, I actually liked Minnesota to win, but again, in a rookie move, picked Arizona to cover, thinking it would be close, but only a 3.5. Lo and behold, that doesn't work. I got cute on my teaser round robin, played the Cardinals, didn't get the win. And that was the dagger that put the nail in that coffin. And this is sad because I had a lot of good handicaps. I had a lot of good winners and picks, and I just played it the wrong way. And it's like so shameful because I really liked Minnesota just to win. And it was it's minus 200. It's pretty, but I could have just again, if I really played the teaser, I could have took Minnesota down enough where maybe it was a minus 200, but like, God, if I just take a point or two. Like,
God, I mean, boy, what a lesson. And I'm not saying it to demean you. It's just like, it's something good to know. And you're like, well, I could pick NFL games, and I watch NFL games, and trust me, I ain't saying I'm a pro. I'm amateur.
We're not. I'm not.
Scum.
We're not.
Scrubs. Not pro, not good. I'm crap right now. But you wonder, like, how these pros, like, why are they so good? Like, are they just better at, like, picking these NFL games than everyone else in the world? Like, it's just sometimes you had a great handicapping week. Great handicapping week. But you just made bets. You bet the wrong teams. You made the wrong bets and lost. And it's like me. I didn't handicap. I handicapped terrible. My 1:00 games, brutal, horrible.
Yeah, I was gonna say
terrible.
I was gonna say with your picks, it was amazing. You even got something.
I don't know how I won. I don't know how I didn't lose like all my money because it was terrible. But it was just a matter of teasing the right teams, betting the right money lines, getting a few lucky breaks, and lo and behold. Now 4:00 helped. I was much better 4:00. 1:00.
Oh yeah,
and this was another one where you're watching. Arizona's playing close, and then it's just the end of the game happens, and it's like, really? I hate this Arizona team. I hate them. I can't wait for my case of beer because that's the only thing. And I bet this effing team so many times this year, and I don't know why. Every time I see them, I'm like, oh, Arizona, I kind of like them in this spot.
Frustrating. Oh, hold on. So the other thing I didn't give you shit for, and you just reminded me. So speaking of the case of beer and hedging, explain to the people how you gave me hell for taking the Panthers. Yeah, in your fantasy team, you flex. What was it, Dante Foreman?
Here we go. I'm gonna explain it here. I don't have the paper bag. This is a garbage bag. I'm just gonna.
What I'm saying is, deep down, you're a fraud.
So, yeah. As Steve said, here's what I do. So I go. Atlanta has like the 26th rush defense out there. So my thought is, I had Amon-Ra St. Brown who was injured, and I say to myself, well, I got all this money on Atlanta, and I liked Atlanta this week. But, I'll do a little bit of a hedge, and I'll play Deontay Foreman for running back for Carolina, kind of hedge my situation there. Of course, Foreman gets like 30 fantasy points, 3 touchdowns. So, yeah. What was worse was I literally hedged and won on both sides, which was the most disgusting thing. Well, my fantasy team.
That is the most disgusting thing.
But Foreman was like the bright spot for my otherwise disgusting fantasy team. So,
yeah. God, okay. So now that we're done sidetracking, you can go ahead and take the bag off. I appreciate
that. That was deserved. Yeah, I forgot all about that. That was horrible.
God, I almost let you get away with that too. Just.
I'm going to get sued for fraud. People are going to be like, money management. Do I need to do a disclaimer now every pick? I'm going to need to put it in the description. Money management may do teasers. Please don't send him death threats.
You may have to. But
no, seriously though, not to get too off topic, but really like you should be thinking about legitimate hedge opportunities when you can. Because you always want to have yourself covered in the event you're wrong. So
I have a great story that actually backs up that logic for you after this. I wanted to end the podcast on. I wanted to end it on some good news, given our back and forth, how the week had actually gone. I have a great story for us to end it on. It's a happy ending, I promise you people. Yeah. So speaking of happy endings, not for Zach Wilson. He didn't see his mom's best friend this weekend. They hosted the Patriots. They were 2.5-point dogs. And we said this. Belichick hates the Jets. Belichick beats the Jets.
13 straight.
And Zach Wilson is out there seeing ghosts, and he's just throwing interceptions like there was a money line bet on it.
Which there probably should have been. Steve did a bet. Steve did a bet, Pickett to throw an interception. I'm surprised you didn't do a little parlay action, Pickett and Wilson to throw an interception.
I didn't think. You know what it was? The Kenny Pickett interception was a ball in the hoop kind of bet because it was minus like 280. I threw like the remaining change I had and literally was like, fuck it. Let me get one in the net. Let me just see something go through. And albeit that Kenny Pickett interception was a tip ball situation yet again. So maybe I shouldn't have even gone it. But yeah, now that I think about it, you're 100% right. I should have parlayed that with Zach Wilson. That just would have been like too easy.
Bro, Zach Wilson. Now, there are some bad interceptions that are thrown. This guy is flipping the ball to the middle of nowhere to be intercepted. He's like that kid on Madden. You ever see those Madden interceptions where you're going, you try and throw the ball to the receiver, and your character just like inexplicably throws it like right to the defense? That's Zach Wilson in real life.
Yeah, that was like, it looked like he was trying to throw it away, but didn't throw it away. He hit the wrong button. That's what happened. He hit the wrong button. Instead of hitting, the bumper to throw it out, he throws it to complete the interception. It was so weird, too, because the Patriots and Mac Jones, it wasn't like they did anything spectacular. They didn't completely blow them out. It was just a game that, like, the Patriots had complete control of on the defensive side of the field. And Zach Wilson just couldn't do anything right. Now you get the Jets next week, and they get to go to Buffalo. And I'm just like, God, how many ghosts is this kid going to see there? Because it's just – because, as we know, the Bills don't let off the gas pedal, except apparently on Sunday Night Football, but,
Oh, we're going to get into them.
God.
There's a Bills rant coming. But, no, it's – God, the Patriots don't even look that good. But, yeah, Zach Wilson completely gave them no chance to win. And especially against the Bills team, like if the Bills get up early and Zach Wilson's trying to play hero ball, and by the way, guess who's back for the Bills next week? Takeaway Trey. White. Yeah, this could be dangerous.
This could be ugly.
Yeah,
I may have to play the Zach Wilson interception line next week. I may just have to. Yeah. So. Speaking of takeaways, Tennessee went to Houston, and they just gave the ball to Derrick Henry, and they took away the win.
4 straight games, 200 yards against Houston. It's unbelievable.
Sorry, I freaking dropped something. You just wonder, is history going to repeat itself every time? And Tennessee just comes in with Malik Willis, who, by the way, I don't think is the answer for the Titans' future after seeing him play against the Texans. He does not look like he is ready to be an NFL quarterback by any standards whatsoever.
Yeah. He's got long. You don't even see. He's so raw. It's like he's got miles to go before he's ready. You're 100%.
Yeah, I mean, time will tell whether it pays off or not. I mean, we've seen other quarterbacks wait behind the sidelines for years and get their chance. And this isn't an anti-Malik Willis situation. This is just like you watch him play and you're like, God, I can see why Tannehill got the start now. Like, this is...
No, the kid, I mean, he's from Liberty. Seems like a good kid, but, man, he's so far away. He's going to need a couple years to really...
Yeah, without a doubt. And God, this Texans team, though, they're so many years removed themselves just from even being close to competitive anymore. I mean, I gave up on the Texans weeks ago, but I know there's other bettors out there that have probably still played the Texans. I don't even think the spread was that far off. I could be wrong. But
how's Tennessee? Tennessee was what? Pick 'em?
2.5 points. That was it. 2.5 points.
No, that was before when Malik Willis got announced as a starter. They might have been underdogs.
It was pick 'em.
I mean, really?
Yeah, I was just like, this is. I swear to God, with Vegas, I wish I could sit down with the people who make these lines and I could just use the Chewbacca defense anytime they bring up Tennessee. Okay, look, this is Chewbacca. This does not make sense. Why are they a pick 'em against Houston?
See, this is
Like
where I
ever.
wish I had like $100,000 bankroll because I might have bet like 5,000, $10,000 just on the Titans to win. I mean, it was literally that. Like, why is this Houston team? Why are they a pick 'em with Tennessee?
That was a payday loan opportunity for us, to be quite honest with you. That should have just been like, go get the payday loan, throw it on Tennessee, and if we lose it, you know what? Like I would have done that 900 times again and again and again. Like, how do you not? I mean, Texans are just that bad.
Yeah, that made no sense. That made no sense, that line. So, and of course, yeah, that worked out. I think that actually might have ended up being. That was one of my best bets. I think I might have put that on the Twitter because it was just too good to pass up. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah, that was that was your third best bet. You were like, I'm going to take a chance on the kid. For me, it was just like, I told you the only reason this wasn't my best bet was because I literally did it the week before when they played the Colts. And I was just like, with the Malik Willis situation, with my other favorite of the week, it was just like God, that should have been my other pick, but you had already thrown it out there. But God, I loved this game too.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I talked about my favorite of the week here, or we haven't talked about them yet. But given as Tennessee was one of your favorites, my dog of the week, the Giants. They went to Seattle. They tied their shoes. They did not get the win though.
Tough game. I like both teams, but Seattle at home just did a little bit more to.
That was so weird because they, again, as I handicapped Seattle at home, they rarely show up in that fashion. Like, there were games they showed up and won, but it was a lot closer. Geno didn't perform as well. This Giants team, it was like they went to the West Coast. They've been there before. They won, and this time around, it was like the Giants of old all over again.
I think you got to be careful when a team's winning a lot of close games the way the Giants have, especially sort of big comeback wins, miraculous wins. I'm not saying that they're a fraud team, but going to Seattle, kind of a tough spot after winning in Jacksonville. Just a tough spot for them. Your bet wasn't horrible. It was just a tough spot for the Giants.
3-0 ATS and straight up on the road this year for the G-Men. Now they're 3-1. Yeah, the Seahawks, I think I got to stop discounting them. I got to stop trying to be cute with that team. At this point, it's got to be I like them or I don't. And just leave it at that. Like, I've been disrespecting them, I think, a little bit too long. I mean, maybe the Monday night game, week 1, was a little emotional just because of all that nonsense. But, God, like, you get Geno Manning every opportunity, and he's cooking everybody. He might win comeback player of the year, I think. That would be an early bet if I can make that. Even with, I don't even know how big those odds are, but
plus 220, I think. Saquon Barkley is the favorite at minus 155, which
God, I would probably bet Geno now. Because number one, if Saquon gets hurt again, which it looks like he's been getting banged up here and there, those odds will drop and Geno will become the favorite. But number two, he's a quarterback and they generally win awards in the NFL more than anything. Christian McCaffrey could be up there too, and depending on how he finishes his year, maybe he steals it. Maybe that would be a hedge. I'd maybe put a unit or two on each and just see what happens. But
yeah, I'd favor Geno because I think it's possible Seattle wins the division, whereas the Giants, if they have a bad second half of the year, they might be close to out of the playoffs. You know what I mean? So.
Absolutely. I will say my DGen futures bet on that NFC East looking really good right now. Washington last, Giants third, Cowboys second, Eagles first.
Looking good, man. Let's hold our breath.
It's looking good. We're halfway through the year. We'll see what happens. Yeah, that was a $12 bet to pay out 120. So we'll see if that works out. But another game that actually ended up working out for us, Washington Commanders. They went to Indianapolis for Sam Ellinger's first game as a starter, and God, did that!
And the Colts don't
what
have
a,
an offensive coordinator today, so what does that tell you?
They don't have an offensive coordinator. They don't have a quarterback. They don't really have a backup quarterback either.
They don't have
pride. They don't have pride. They don't really have a defense. That was my takeaway from this game. Is the Colts are. I think Colts are on auto fade. I think I'm adding them to the list. Just anytime. I don't care who they're playing. I don't care what the spread is. I'll fade it all. Just now, admittedly, this was a weird spot for the Colts. Why were they 3-point home favorites?
But it's
considering how bad
it's another game where they lost in the last minute. I mean, they were a minute away from covering. These bad teams. Washington won again. I think they've won 3 straight now, which is crazy.
3 straight.
Sam Heineke. That even his name?
Heineken's for Heineke.
Jesus, the guy just finds a way to eke out victories. Another team coming off their Super Bowl who won, I guess.
Yep, Washington. They stole it. They literally stole it from the Colts had the grasp of victory, which admittedly too, I don't even feel like it was deserved. It wasn't like the Colts really put the game away for them to get. It wasn't like Sam Ellinger was that impressive either, if you ask me. This just seems like a Colts team who has no identity and they're trying to figure their shit out, and they don't realize they have Jonathan Taylor they can just hand the ball off to.
Well, he's been fumbling the ball. He hasn't been the same player this year. And maybe he had one good year, was a 1-year wonder. And
maybe
I'll tell you what, man, Frank Reich's seat is blistering. His days are numbered.
Yeah. Sam Reich could be the next coach fired if it's not Hackett for Denver. I think it's going to be Frank Reich. Yeah. If not him, Dan Campbell could be there as well. God. Okay, so this is going to be my Donko.
Here's where you take shit. So if you remember viewers, Big Bucks Beta last week, I always bet the Rams in this situation. The Rams always lose. I'm not going to do it again. Now tell the viewers what you did.
Okay. So, a bit of background. We live in Maryland. Maryland does not have mobile betting as of yet. It is coming within this month, supposedly. We keep getting the ads. We know it's impending at any day now. I go to PA, which is near where Money Mansman lives. We were going to go watch the games. So I swing by PA to go make my bets. Now, if you remember, viewers, the Rams were an underdog, plus money. The Niners were favored. So, what happens when I get to PA? It turns into a pick'em. Now, I'm scrambling because I'm trying to catch my Broncos game. Mistake number 1. Don't ever rush your bets. Yeah. Take your damn time.
Especially not for the Broncos. It wasn't like you were missing much.
No. But you know what? I love my team. Even when they fail. Gotta see it all the time. Number 2. I threw it in my round robin. And again, the idea was it was the one favorite I was going to add. I believe 2 were dogs, 2 were favorites. That was the idea. 2 dogs, 2 favorites, round robin it, just play it safe. Because I was trying to see some green. So what do? I see minus 108. Oh. Scrolling through, hitting the buttons. Okay, got it in. And I'm driving back. I get to your place, and I go looking at my bets. And I realized the game had become a pick'em, and I accidentally picked the Rams money line.
Oh, come on! What are you doing? What are you doing?
You're cursed. You must pick the Rams.
Move.
You must pick the Rams every time they play the Niners, and you will continue to lose again and again.
God. I didn't even want the Rams. I literally didn't even want to bet them, and I still somehow found a way to do it. And I know it sounds really, 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 really fucking stupid of me, but I just managed to find a way to bet the Rams again. Completely on accident. I literally didn't intend to do it. And again, like, I don't know why people would think I would lie about this. This is completely fucking embarrassing. But, you know, even in my handicap, I was like, God, I want to take the Rams. I just can't. Like, there's just no good reason for me to take the Rams.
But he could, and he did.
I could, and I did.
And how did that game go? I mean,
it went completely fucking terrible. Cooper Kupp literally gets injured on a bullshit, not even necessary play for him to be out there. They were already down. Christian McCaffrey literally becomes LaDainian Tomlinson, throws, catches, and rushes in for a touchdown. Jimmy G didn't even really do all that much. CMC just magically appears as the new Lord and Savior of San Francisco. And lo and behold, they do what they always do. They beat the shit out of Sean McVay and the Rams. This game already makes me sick to my stomach as it is, just having to relive this. Rams now 1-5 ATS as home dogs under Sean McVay. That was your nice little video nugget that you wanted to throw out there for the nugget, where I was trying to be hopeful for the Rams, and I was like, oh, they're 1-4. Now it's 1-5. So
you were so excited too. That was so funny.
I was so excited. They're 1-5 ATS at home. So no, that was my. There's no poll this week. That's my donkey pick of the week. Picking the Rams literally at -108 on accident. Because I thought it was the Niners.
That was indicative of your week last week. Snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
Pretty fucking much. What were your thoughts on the game otherwise, though? I mean, other than Christian McCaffrey's performance.
Niners just beat the Rams, and the Rams aren't that good. I mean, other than obviously we had a laugh. But all in all, in terms of the teams, it's just I'm not getting too high on the Niners because I know everyone's going to festoon over them now about how good they are. But they beat the Rams, and I don't think the Rams are that good of a team. So.
Do you think it's a Super Bowl hangover? I mean, I know we keep talking about the Bengals, which we'll get into at the last game because they're coming up real soon. But, I mean, is it possible the Rams just have one themselves? I mean, they gave up all those draft picks for a one-year wonder anyways. You got to think that.
Maybe. I just think they're old, too. They're not – their offensive line's no good. They can't run the ball. And if you can't run the ball, play action doesn't work. And Matt Stafford was doing a lot of play action last year, so –
Cam Akers no longer wants to be on the team. OBJ is a free agent, but the Rams won't pay him enough to come back, which I don't even really think is the right move, even though he is sitting on my bench as a free agent. I don't think OBJ is necessarily the answer, but you have a lot of missing pieces from last season that actually made a difference for this team. And now that they don't have them, it's like, God, they really are just a middle of the pack average team. I wouldn't be shocked if they end up being a top 10 draft pick this year. I really wouldn't be. Especially, too, after this year, I think there's a lot of other free agents on a last-minute deal. This could get ugly for the Rams.
Well, it's an NFC eliminator, Bucs-Rams, coming up, so we'll see which team.
Ooh. Spoiler alert, Bucs are on auto fade.
He's rolling with the Rams one time. Well, tune into the next video.
And I'll intend to do it this time. I promise you people. I will intend to do that. Here we go. The moment we've all been waiting for. Buffalo, Sunday night, hosted the Green Bay Packers. 10.5-point home favorites. I could have sworn you this was my lock. Buffalo should have ran the ball down their throats. What happened?
This is I'm gonna rant about this. I'm not mad that the Bills didn't cover. That's not why I'm mad.
I'm mad.
I'm mad about the fact that this team completely disrespected the league and their fans with that performance on Sunday Night Football. Disrespectful, embarrassing performance. You get up to a 24-6 lead in the first half, and you sleepwalk through the second half. You don't even try.
No.
The game was never close. The Bills were 90% to win the game for the whole game. The fact that they, on Sunday Night Football, sleptwalk, like they didn't even care. Embarrassing, disrespectful performance. Pathetic.
Especially, too, with all the shit talking that was going on before the game between Jair Alexander and Stephon Diggs. What happened in the second half for me to think that, like, Diggs had any room to shit talk at the press conference after?
Well, I'll tell you what. First off, all the little Packers fans, oh, Jair Alexander, 0 catches against him. Did you watch the game? Did the Bills look like they were even fucking trying? Was the game ever even close? So the fact that Jair Alexander had an interception, that Josh, let's be honest, he did a Zach Wilson and threw the ball like an idiot.
He gave it right to him. Like, he literally threw it in his
Jair
hands.
Alexander was a non-factor. The entire Packers team was a non-factor in that game because the game was never close. Literally. It was over by halftime. There was not one point in that game that you had any concern that the Bills weren't going to win.
Well, are you just upset that this was the game they sleptwalked, not the Jets in the past, not other games? This was just a game they had the lead.
It's Sunday night primetime football. You're on national TV, and you're going to go and just treat the second half like a big joke. That was unacceptable. Pathetic performance. It was disrespectful to the fans and disrespectful to the game. You're on Sunday Night Football. You're on prime time. And you're going to go and just, I mean, Josh Allen's like rolling out, throwing the ball into triple coverage, getting intercepted. The Bills' offense is just like, I mean, it literally looked like they were going through walkthroughs in the second half. And I don't mind, the game wasn't even, okay, it's the fourth quarter, you put in the backups, that's one thing. The game's technically close, and it's just like
it was a 10-point game. It's a 2-score game.
The Bills look like entirely disinterested in playing football in the second half. Their offense especially was just, I mean, no offense, the Packers' defense was not good. The Bills just looked like they didn't even care. And that's why I'm angry. Disgraceful.
I'll give you this. I mean, you're right. The Bills came out, and it was just like, oh, wow, the Packers. Okay, this is cute. And, like, in the first half, did everything right. They did what the Bills always do. Second half, it was just like...
drop passes, bad interceptions.
Like, they were literally trying to end the game. They were just like, whatever, fuck it, we don't want to be here.
And that's the worst part about it, too, is that this team's so conceited that literally they just, like, didn't even try in the second half. And they still won. Like I said, there was never a point in that game where you really felt as a Bills fan, oh, my God, the Bills are in danger of losing. It was like Aaron Rodgers and the Packers weren't even there.
It really was. I mean, God, Aaron Rodgers, speaking of it, washed Rodgers, still immunized from winning. He's still suffering those side effects. Just Bill's bullshit aside, Aaron Rodgers, you give him I've never seen in his career a team straight up disrespect him like in that fashion, where they literally said, "Here, fuck it, we don't care about this game. Do your thing, Rodgers," and he still couldn't do it.
No, the Packers are quickly descending towards like complete irrelevance this year. And yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, you want to talk about, that's a Green Bay team that normally they're going to get everybody's best shot, and the Bills like couldn't even be bothered in the second half to play.
They thought it was cute. That's the impression I got.
I think you're right. That's probably more of a statement on Green Bay than anything else. That's how far the Packers have fallen. That's where they're at.
I mean, once again, Rodgers can't get a receiver at the free agency deal. You wonder whether they're going to make a move for somebody like Odell Beckham, or if they're going to just kind of roll with what they got. Because
this is 4 games out in the division now.
They could be done. They're looking at wild card at best.
Bro, there's a lot of teams in the NFC that are mediocre that they're in it, but at the same time, do you have faith in this Packers team to win?
No,
They
not at
shown
all.
you anything the past 4 weeks?
Their offense certainly hasn't. Their defense, admittedly, they've had flashes of success, and I'm not saying that for just the Bills. I'm saying that in other games as well. But there's just like, God, this is not the Rodgers who used to get the ball with 2 minutes to go, and it was guaranteed he was going to win. This is literally like you give Rodgers a whole quarter to win a game, and he just gives it away.
There was a time you never bet against Aaron Rodgers because you just. Like,
you mean last year?
And
literally last year.
Now it's like you can make a living betting against him.
For God, I used to say this handicapping every year when it was just me and you. I used to say, "Hey, you want to bet against Aaron Rodgers at home? Just give me your money instead. Like it'll be more worthwhile. I promise you." And now this year, it's like, "Oh, you want to bet on Aaron Rodgers? Give me your money instead. I can make it more worthwhile." Last point, Buffalo. They're getting a real big step down next week. Considering how they treated Green Bay, is this going to be? Are you worried that this happens again?
Yeah, because
if you're a Buffalo,
the Jets sometimes play tough games against the Bills, but I think at the same time the Bills have won the past few against the Jets, and God, you feel like if the Bills could get out to a big lead, just the way Zach Wilson played last week, what they need to do is force Zach Wilson to be hero ball. Because the key is if he's going to go game manage, the Jets have a chance to maybe keep the game close. But God, if the Bills go up 24 again, you just feel like Zach Wilson's going to throw a few interceptions, and that's going to be that.
Yeah. All right. So we'll get to yesterday's game. Cincinnati. They went to Cleveland. They were 3.5-point road favorites.
Boy, that was.
And once again, Joe Burrow did not show up in Cleveland. Myles Garrett, the sack reaper, shows up and just completely wrecks his shit. This was my fade of the week, and honestly, this could have been arguably my best bet. I was on the side of Cleveland the whole time. I said, there's no way Cincy comes back and covers this. They got cute for 2 games. It was nice while it lasted, but there's just no way I see them waking up. Lo and behold, no Jamar Chase, though, which I think is a big concern if you're a Bengals fan. But it just seemed like that the Bengals couldn't do anything right yesterday. Cleveland did everything possible right. They got enough scores. Unfortunately, I will say the over-under pick I had, the over, it dropped down to 45.5. The game was at 45. They had the ball in the red zone. And they not only was that the bad beat where he took the knee, there was a prop bet for Jacoby Brissett over under 12 rushing yards. He was at 13 rushing yards before that final play.
Oh.
Took 2 knees, went down to 11 yards. The under ended up hitting. So this was just another weird game of bad beats and shit. I have a really good story though after we get your thoughts on this game.
Yeah, no, it'll be very brief, and then we could end with your. We don't even need to do a recap of our records for this week because mine.
I think we should.
I
think we should.
But no, just very briefly about this game. Yeah, Bengals without Jamar Chase, they can't run the ball either. Weakness was Brown's rush defense, and yeah, Burrow was getting sacked. Cincy's defense complete no-show. Browns needed a win. They got a win, and that's all you can really say about it. Glad I didn't bet it. Didn't like it. Happy not to have put money on it.
Gotcha. I'm trying to find the actual betting slip for this guy to begin with, but there was a story I wanted to share with you in the DeGent Nation to end this on a good note. God, I can only find snippets of what this guy did, but we'll go with this. This guy. God, why can I not find it? I keep thinking I find it and then I don't. I'll just get to the story. So this guy, it's his wedding night. It's a Sunday. Football Sunday. So what does he do? He takes $7.77, the lucky sevens. He puts it on a 17-leg full NFL slate parlay. He gets to Sunday night with 15 legs hit. By the way, this guy turns out not even paying attention to these games. It's his wedding night. So understandably
Doing
so.
other things, yeah.
Doing other things. His second to last leg is the Green Bay Buffalo over under 46.5. It comes down to a Mason Crosby field goal attempt, which he happened to shank for the under to stay there. He hits the 16th leg. He wakes up the next day. It's supposed to be his honeymoon. He's one leg away from winning $120,000. FanDuel personally reaches out to this guy. And I want to say this was a possible same game parlay plus kind of a bet. One where normally you don't get a cash out option. FanDuel personally reaches out to this guy. And I'm going to pull the letter up here. Fam just got married today. Now sitting here with possible 2 life-changing events in one day. No cash out available. Let it ride. They reach out after this blows up on social media. Offer him a $60,000 cash out. One time only. No other opportunities. What does this guy do? Out of curiosity, Jason, what do you think this guy does? Does he let it ride or does he take the cash out?
Lets it ride.
He lets it ride. You're goddamn right. He lets it ride because that's a true degenerate. That is what he does. However, he not only lets it ride, he grabs his new wife. They travel to Cleveland, Ohio. They get 50-yard line tickets to this game and literally hold up a sign for the Bengals over 63.5 rushing yards for Joe Mixon.
Oh, dude.
Jason, how did the Joe Mixon line end?
I don't think it ended that well.
24 rushing yards.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
However, before he goes to the game, he runs to the casino, hedges $34,000 on the under, walks away from a $7 bet with 30 grand profit. Now, here's what we can take away personally from me. Is it the 120 grand 17 leg parlay hit? No. Why is it not? It's always the goddamn last leg of the parlay that always fucks you. That is just a mantra in betting world that it always happens. Number 2, is it the $60,000 cash out? No. But the man had 120 on the line. He grabbed every cent. He hedges like a genius. My man, he dropped his crown. I pick it up for him. We salute you, sir. Yeah. I just want to say congratulations to this guy.
You get the DeGents mark of approval there. Hallelujah. And again, hedging your bets, folks, especially a big one like that. I hate all the idiots. They're talking about like, oh, it's negative EV. If you have a life-changing parlay on that, at least the guy got $30,000. And that's a free honeymoon. That's the cost of the ring. That's a dent in the wedding cost.
That is your wedding. That is your wedding ring. $124K. That is everything.
Yeah.
This dude, by the way, he had no cash out. He was forced to sweat through that Green Bay Buffalo game, where by the middle of the second half, it was already at 46. So he went through all that hell. And I think that was the game he learned his lesson, where it was like, okay, one bet left. Yeah. I could take a cash out or I could hedge. And weirdly enough, I think the smarter option was the hedge, because I get it. He didn't take the 60 cash out, but you know what? Like,
yeah, I mean,
he had guaranteed money either way.
You want to take the risk, but you still, there's a way to mitigate your risk and do it smartly. And yeah, he could add 60, but at the very least, you know what? The guy still got $30,000. That's still a lot of money. And these people who, it's also a lesson to these people. Oh yeah, let it ride. Screw hedging. Well, this
Oh, he
guy,
should have taken the cash out. Well, if you take the cash out, how much of a dumbass are you going to feel if that overhits? That's a worse feeling, if you ask me, is knowing you could have had more money, but you sucked out.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, he got something, which is better than nothing. And, like my old man used to say, beats ripping the ticket. And I'll tell you what, 30,000 ain't that bad to sleep on. So,
Yep. So he bet 34 grand. It was a 29 grand profit. He had 63 and five and change after that hedge bet. He ends up profiting damn near 30,000 off of that. I mean, couldn't have happened to a smarter guy, especially on his wedding day.
yeah,
Like
him,
that.
man.
Such a feel good. And literally, they asked his fiance, they asked his new wife. They were like, "Oh, so what's the first thing you're spending your money on?" "Oh, maybe new nails." Best man sitting with him. More parlays.
And those are distinguished degenerates right there.
So on that note, I wanted to end it on a bit of positivity. That you also mentioned too that this was Vegas's first week of losing money to the public. So all in all, even though I didn't profit, I think a lot of other people did, and I think this is a cause for celebration. Also because we're at the half year mark for this season.
Yeah. So there we go. Public ended the halfway mark on a good note. I, all things considered, even though my handicapping was terrible, ended the halfway year on a positive note. So hopefully the second half will be better because we had a tough first.
Yeah, absolutely. For week 8, I went 8-7 ATS, 11-4 money line, 6-9 over unders. That puts me at 51, 57-1 ATS, 62, 44-1 money line, and 47-62 on the over unders. Jason, do you want to share your stats? Or are you going to hide in shame, put the garbage bag over your head?
5-10 ATS this week. Oh God, that's terrible. 7-8 money line, but at the end of the day, I won money. So hallelujah.
At the end of the day,
not
you won
a lot
money.
of money, but you know what? Green is better than 0, and I'm hoping to take that. Maybe my handicaps will be a little better tomorrow, and slowly build from the bottom up. So we can
sure. And the last stat I want to bring up, this is just something I personally have been tracking, wanted to share with the people. I used to bring up this stat of games that ended in 3 points or less or 4 points or less when looking at these spreads, because some of them have been dangerously close. Beginning of the year, weeks 1 through 4, we had 23 games go between 3 points or less, 28 games between 4 points or less. That was a 36% and 44% margin. For the first 4 weeks, weeks 5 through 8, massive drop off. Only 11 games with 3 points or less is the total. Wow. 17 games with 4 points for an 18%, literally half the games in the next 4 weeks, and almost half of the games, only 29% of the games from week 5 through 8, 17 were 4 points or less, so literally less than 30%. That puts a total of 34 games with 3 points or less and 45 games at 4 points or less. So we're looking at 28% and 37% respectively, back down to like maybe a third. So the thing I noticed too was 2 other things. Number one, the trend with it seems to have moved where games aren't as close now, where it's a 3 or 4 point spread. But what I did notice was that the 5 and 6 point spreads were moving a lot higher. I didn't track those numbers, but it was something I did notice just doing in the research. Another thing too is that with the massive drop off, is this the time of year where we're seeing teams who they really are, and we're getting the types of games where it's essentially blowout or bust.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I think you saw the spreads got a lot tighter because everybody knew the stats, and the lines got a lot tighter. And I think what's been hard about this year is, and this is something I noticed when I was starting my handicap for this week, there were so many teams that are underwater in the sense of they have a winning record, but they give up more points a game than they score. The Chargers were one. I saw that with the Falcons. I think I saw that with the Titans as well. And the Titans are 5-2, and maybe that was skewed because of the Buffalo game. But there's a lot of teams, other than like the Chiefs, Bills, the top teams, where they have a winning record, but they give up more points than they score, like on average. And that's really led to a lot of sort of mediocre teams that are kind of in the middle. And it makes betting hard because a lot of times you go and you could make money off of teams that are bad. You could kind of pick on the Houstons of the world. You could pick on the Detroits of the world. But there's been a lot fewer of those teams this year because Jacksonville's had some wins. Atlanta's had wins. Carolina's played well. So it's just been harder to sort of pick on teams because any given Sunday, Packers are going to lay an egg, Bucks are going to lay an egg. So it's been a tough
Rams
year.
lay an egg, yeah.
Been a tough first half of the year, no doubt about it. One of the toughest years in memory, really.
Yeah, I will say my success rate for the second half not as good as the first half, but oddly enough, my picks have gotten better as the year has gone. So I think your prediction of us figuring out these teams later on and being better on them has come true. I think my goal for the next slate of games is to bet smarter and not. I guess I got to go with more. I think I said this last time too, but I think this next time around I got to be more willing to bet on the confidence picks, not necessarily the safer ones. Because I've noticed with the ones where like Miami game was a prime example. I wanted that game to 3.5, but like not that you scared me off, but it was just like that was a game where like come decision time, it was like maybe this game's better, maybe I handicapped it, and I try to overthink that. And I think the next time around it's just going to be, you know what, I like this. If it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah. I've had a problem where I'm picking the wrong dogs, favorites. It's just like I'm just in a bad way in terms of handicapping. And again, my betting sort of teasers and alternate spreads and money line plays have kind of bailed me out from losing maybe more money than I should have. Like last week, I should have been completely cleaned out because I did terrible. And it's just a matter of, like I said, I had 1 week where I really had a good week picking. And then the rest has just been weird sort of Dumbo picks. And it's just a matter of, like, in the second half, can I just string enough good picks together to really, like, do something? And that's the hope that I'll be able to do so.
Yeah, next week we only have 12 games. A lot less for us to mess up on, but just as much to potentially get wrong as well. Hopefully I think we can come to a good conclusion on at least half those games. I mean, considering it's only 12, I feel like it's an opportunity for us to get right. Considering there isn't as much, maybe we could just dead focus on more of the confidence picks. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, yeah, I gotta learn to play the games. I can pick and that's the thing that you mentioned earlier, is there's a difference between picking the games and betting the games. And God, I've learned I can pick the games, but betting them has just been, it's been so up and down for me this year. It hasn't been consistent. I think I just need to focus on getting consistent.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And thankfully, thankfully because of this last win I had, it's been one more week without putting money in the betting account. So
it's looking like I'm going to have to do that this week. Not happy about that, but that's what I get for trying to be cute with some of these lines and not paying attention. So next time around, I'm gonna be smarter.
Yeah. All right, man. So
all right, folks. Yes, sir.
Week 8 recap over. Halfway point of the year over. Time to start fresh. Second half come tomorrow. So.
Yes, sir. Second half starts tomorrow. As always, check us out on the Distinguished DeGents Twitter. And thank you guys for tuning in to our recap video. We hope you have a good night.